My name is John Fults. I have two roles here at the campus. I'm the student conduct officer, so I'll deal with any kind of student conduct behavioral problems that you guys have in your classes, kind of the informal process before they get to meet the dean of students and get a kind of discipline or go through any discipline. They'll come to me first. Also, I deal with Title IX. I'm the Title IX administrator, investigator for the campus, so I deal with all Title IX investigations. I handle all the cases for that as far as campus is. Some of you guys probably wonder what Title IX is. If you're not familiar with Title IX is, I'm going to explain that to you, and that's why we're doing this training today. This training is an annual training that all faculty, all staff, anybody that's employed by Ames has to go through on a yearly basis. If you're familiar with college football or anything, you know who Jameis Winston is at Florida State. He's a Title IX. He's a Title IX person or has a lot of Title IX issues that they have to deal with on their campus, and that's what I deal with on our campus. Thank God we don't have a #1 football team or a football team that got their butts kicked in the bowl game on our campus, so we don't have to deal with it as much. But I'm gonna run a video. This video is like about 3 minutes long. Kind of tells you kind of the gist of what Title IX is and why we deal with it and why we have to go through this training and all college campuses do. If you can't hear it, just let me know.
Campus handle it when you experienced it?
Yeah, my college, I think, frustrated me and disappointed me hugely. I loved the school, and I still do. But when I approached and talked to administrators about it, at first it didn't get reported. I wasn't offered support systems or access to adjudication. There aren't very many flexible adjudication options. My perpetrator is still in classes with me. He'll be graduating with me this May. And this is really common, but a lot of students also experience a huge amount of aggression and hostility from their campus administrators, be it really subtle or very, very blatant. And that's happened, even at Syracuse University, lots of students with those experiences, from Syracuse to, Roxbury Community College to Harvard, or all of these kinds of schools have students approaching college administrators, approaching their friends looking for support and being turned away. And this comes from a lot of places. Sometimes it's just that the school doesn't understand what system should be in place. Sometimes it's that the school is totally dismissing every federal regulation that exists and focusing primarily on what they're interested in and building a new building instead of thinking about what students really need, which is a support.
You actually have to take classes with the person who assaulted you?
I do. I have a complicated case in that I actually didn't want to pursue a judicial punishment per se. So I'm really interested in lots of different kinds of judicial responses, but I think what's really important is providing an assumption that perpetrators shouldn't be on campus, right? In my case, I was super interested because I'm also really nervous about the racial injustices in some of these setups. For the system to be a little bit more conscientious of who this person was, why he committed this crime, and how he could be part of what is this really supposedly progressive community of Swarthmore. So I do still take classes with him. Luckily now I have some amazing professors who have helped support me and accommodate some of the way that I take classes, especially like my senior comprehensive programs that he's also a part of. And they've been awesome. And I've also had great mental health support. But at the end of the day, I think there are so many students who are going through that who aren't even able to turn to the person next to them and say, hey, this person like that other person over there, they sexually assaulted me. There are people in consistent abusive relationships who are facing this with someone in class, and it's really hard to speak up about that. So that's something, contact Know Your Nine, contact EROC if you need support, or contact Girl Codes. We can all connect and work on these issues. And that's what's been so great about social media is you can get that support. If your perpetrator is in class, if they're your roommate, if they were your best friend, right, or you never knew them, all of these things we can talk about. The other big thing I would say that I'm looking forward to and hoping starts to happen is that so many more schools are being called out, right? They're being questioned for violating Title IX. But at the end of the day, this shouldn't necessarily be a student responsibility, right? The Office for Civil Rights, Department of Education, they should be looking at these issues and holding our schools accountable, because schools, like Swarthmore, we have sent now lots of money into addressing sexual violence and what they're calling sexual misconduct.
Right.
And it would be brilliant to see, that they actually adhere to Title IX, that they think creatively about policies and really fix their own school. And that can be addressed and they can be held accountable by the government instead of, students who are struggling with it or who have been sexually assaulted on campus.
One thing I'd like to do real quick, could you guys kind of go through and just tell me who you are and what you'll be teaching or what you'll be instructing on campus?
My name is Samantha. I'm going to be teaching statistics.
Okay.
Katie Lewis, biology. Ashley, biology.
Okay.
Julie, physics. Kelly, media.
Okay.
Melanie, physics. Kate, American government. Jackie, accounting. Patty, aviation.
Okay.
Eric, aviation.
Kathy, medical billing and coding.
George Steffenberg, HR.
Okay.
Elizabeth Kohler, nurse aide.
Okay.
Jeannie, nursing.
Zach, astronomy.
Jenny, nursing.
Thomas, teaching. Eric, philosophy.
Statistics.
I'm assuming everybody's here on Greeley campus? Is that right? Okay.
You have to say what the big rings
Oh, I'll get to that. That always comes up. Okay, so hopefully you have a little bit more of an idea of what Title IX is. Does this work? Does clicker work? Do you know, Patricia?
I don't know. Oftentimes the batteries are dead in those.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll just sit at the desk. So as I told you guys, training has to be, this training has to be given to all responsible employees, anybody that's employed in any kind of capacity with Ames. That includes even our contractors. One of the things I've tried to implement this year is I've been trying to get also is our students involved in this. So we have students that are in work studies, getting them involved in this Title IX training as well. Before we used to do a thing where we had an online orientation. You guys could just watch a video, take a quiz. The CRN would kick the quiz score to the Title IX administrator, and then you guys would be good for the year. That's what most schools would have, how they would do it. We're a very non-traditional campus where we don't have a lot of full-time faculty. A lot of our faculty are part-time. We have a lot of faculty that are just do online classes, but because the University of Montana messed that up for everybody throughout the country, we have to come in once a year. I have teachers, or we have teachers on this campus that teach, they live in Denver and just do online. They have to drive up and come to this. We have nurse instructors that have full-time jobs. They have to make time in their schedule to come in and sit through this training with me as well. We have to do it. We're mandated to do that. It's a compliance thing that OCR oversees. OCR is Office of Civil Rights, which has the Department of Education, who is kind of like basically the feds. They oversee all the campuses for any campuses that fall under Title IX. Here's my information right here. I'm located right here in Westview. I don't know if you guys know where Westview is. Westview is the building kind of down the hill off to the north here. A lot of English courses and stuff there. I'm also in the handbook. I'm online. My information is online. That's also a compliance thing, so I'm pretty easy to find. I do oversee all 4 campuses, so I'm always around. I go to Windsor periodically. I go to Loveland. I usually get to those campuses either once or twice a month. Same with Fort Lupton. I'm always down there and trying to be visible, not just for Title IX issues, but also for student conduct, just to kind of mingle with the students and see what's going on, and mingle with the instructors as well, and make sure things are going good. So here's my information if you ever need to. So Title IX, what Title IX is? Title IX was passed in 1972. Basically just states, no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any educational program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. We are a college that have lots of students that are on federal financial aid, so we receive federal financial assistance, so we fall under Title IX. Any campus, it doesn't matter how big or how small, if they receive any kind of federal financial funding, they fall under Title IX. They have to do this training, they fall under the guidelines of Title IX, it has to be followed. If you go to your public institutions, such as, I use like BYU, that's a private institution. They don't have to follow Title IX. They can make up their own kind of policies and procedures. They can state in their policies and procedures that all females will wear dresses every first Wednesday of the month or something like that. If we try to pass something like that here at Ames, we'd probably have we'd have a strike or we'd have a riot, you know, because we're not going to be able to apply, we're not going to be, that's, I mean, that's discriminatory. But somewhere you go to BYU like that, you can that's, it's going to happen. As long as it's a private institution, they can make up their own policies and procedures like that. They don't have to fall under what is Title IX. One of the big things about Title IX right now is legislation is trying to be passed where any school that are in violation of Title IX or violating Title IX, they're trying to make a mandatory 1% fine of the school's operating budget. You ask what's 1% of the school's operating budget. We're not privy to that information, but a school like Harvard, who they give the example to, I'm sorry you guys can't see me, a school like Harvard, 1% of Harvard's operating budget is $42 million, okay? Ames, 1% of Ames' operating budget will probably be enough to shut one of our campuses down, if not the whole college down. So that's how critical Title IX is to us. What is Title IX? I'm going to read a lot of these because the definitions are very self-explanatory, and I really want you to get the whole meaning of what Title IX is. Sexual misconduct. What is Title IX? Any unwelcome conduct of sexual nature, which can include unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, or other verbal and nonverbal or physical conduct of sexual nature. Thus, sexual harassment prohibited by Title IX can include conduct such as touching of a sexual nature, making sexual comments, jokes, or gestures, writing graffiti, or displaying or distributing sexually explicit drawings, pictures, or written materials, calling students sexually charged names, spreading sexual rumors, rating students on sexual activity or performance, or circulating, showing, or creating emails or websites of a sexual nature. Title IX also covers assault, harassment, exploitation, stalking. RVDV is relational violence and domestic violence. The only difference between those two is relational violence covers your non-traditional couples, like your gay and lesbian couples. Domestic violence covers your traditional couples. So that's what Title IX is. Of course, I know the question I always get is, so does Ames have that many problems with all this of Title IX and sexual assault? No, we don't, because we don't have two things. We don't have athletics, and we don't have resident life dorms. Those two things make Title IX cases on campuses go out the roof. That's what my ring is from. I played football through college. That's what I did. So Title IX is big. We didn't have Title IX. We had Title IX, but Title IX back then was more of a sports thing on making sure the equality between female sports and male sports. And that was basically making sure the females were afforded the same kind of uniforms and facilities that the males are being afforded in sports and activities like that. And that's what everybody still thinks Title IX has to deal with. But Title IX is much more than that now. It covers much more than that. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'll gladly answer. I'll try to go through this because I know Trish has me on a clock back there. Responsible employee. Responsible employee, all that means is you have the authority to take action to redress the harassment. You have the duty to report the harassment or any kind of misconduct to the appropriate officials. And I'll get to that, who the appropriate officials are. A student can reasonably believe they have the authority to or responsibility to report that, and that would be one of our students that have a work study. If any of you guys have a work study under you, like I said, I've been taking them through them. The biggest thing with the work study students is they are a student, but when they're in the capacity of doing their work study, they're considered an employee. So the one thing I like to point out to them is they're going to have their friends are going to probably be students more than they are going to be employees. When students are all friends, they all tend to click on social media. If they find out something or something comes across social media, say on Facebook, somebody posted something about all gays need to go to hell or something like that, that could be a possible Title IX. They'd be obligated to report that. I know there are some professors or faculty probably that have friends or might know somebody that's in our campus as a student and might have social media through them with family. That's all stuff that needs to be presented as well as Title IX. So be careful on what you post on social media. Be careful who you're friends with. If somebody's posting something that you know they like to post a lot of crazy stuff, you might want to block them so you don't have to see that, okay? Ames policy on Title IX is 4-902. I'm not going to go into it. You guys all have access to it. That's right on the website. The biggest thing about that is it says any individual engaging in discriminatory harassment shall be subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination or expulsion. Whether it's a student or whether it's a faculty, somebody that's involved in Title IX or maybe in violating Title IX, those are the steps that we might take. We might go ahead and terminate them, get them off our campus because we're going to end that hostile environment of having them on our campus, or we might go ahead, if it's a student, go ahead and expel them, or we might make accommodations where we send them to Loveland or send them to Fort Lupton campus and make them finish out their classes there, or maybe finish out the rest of their classes online. But we are going to, some kind of steps is going to be taken to make sure that we are addressing it as a campus. Discrimination, what is discriminatory conduct? Discrimination is conduct that is based upon an individual's race, color, religion, national origin, creed, service in the uniformed service, veteran status, sex, age, political ideals, marital family status, pregnancy, physical or mental disability, genetic information, gender identity, gender expression, or sexual orientation that excludes any individual from participation in or denies the individual the benefits or treats the individual differently or otherwise affects the term or condition of an individual's employment, education, living environment, or participation in a program or activity. So basically, if you're just treating somebody different because they're a part of a certain group, it doesn't matter. It does not just deal with race. Like I said, the LGBT community is really big right now. We do have quite a bit, I won't say quite a bit, but we do have a handful of transgender students on our campus here. They afford the same rights as any other students. But they feel if you're treating them differently or you're not giving them the same benefits by them, then you're setting yourself up for possible Title IX. The main thing I like to preach to a lot of the instructors when we do this, the best thing in the way to prevent Title IX or having Title IX in your classes that you're teaching with your students is be consistent. Stick to your syllabus. You're probably going to piss somebody off because there's always going to be a student that says, I didn't read the syllabus, I didn't see it in the syllabus, and they're going to want you to make accommodations. Don't. Stick by your syllabus, okay? Harassment. Harassment is covered under this policy if it's based on an individual's race, color, religion, national origin, creed, service in the uniformed services. We do have a lot of veterans on our campus as well. Family status, pregnancy, all the same basically identities that I told you in the first one. Harassing conduct may take various forms, including name calling, graphic or written statements, including the use of cell phones or internet, so that's your social media, or conduct that may be physically threatening, harmful, or humiliating. So I mean, if you know about it going on in class, if a student in class, all the rest of the students in class are kind of picking on or scapegoating or basically calling names, and you're aware of it, even though you're trying to just ignore it, say, you know what, as long as it's not causing problems in my class, I'm just going to ignore it until somebody brings it to me. No, you're obligated to go ahead and report that. Sexual harassment can include unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, or other verbal or physical conduct of sexual nature, including sexual assault, and it can involve persons of the same sex. This is not just students on students, but this is also can be instructors on students or students on instructors. One of the cases I like to give here is at one of the schools on the East Coast. They recently had an instructor who went on spring break. She went on spring break to New York. She's just down there visiting, going to do some sightseeing. While she's down there, she ended up meeting a young man, ended up having a little fling with him, which is fine. She's on her own time. She could do that. After the week, she gets back to campus. She's back on campus teaching. About 2 months later, she's walking across campus. She bumps into the young man. He's a student at the campus. She immediately goes and reports to her dean, lets him know, he's not in any of my classes. But pretty soon, the young man starts showing up at her class, telling her he needs this, he needs that. That's a possible Title IX right there. So it's not just faculty on students, but it can be students on faculty. You need to report that right away. Effective remedies that we will achieve as myself as a Title IX administrator and as us as a college is one, we're going to end the harassment. So we're going to take steps to end the harassment anyway. If we know the perpetrator is, of course there is due process, but we're going to take steps to end the harassment. Whether it means removing somebody from a class, removing from a campus, or kicking them out to college. We'll take those steps. Eliminating the hostile environment, same thing. We got to take them away. If somebody's, I guess just verbally assaulting somebody, we're gonna make accommodations to do that. Where's he at? Oh, Todd that just walked back in here, who's going to present to you guys, is our head of security back there. Todd will take steps to get a hold of his security. We'll have security sit outside the classroom and make sure they don't show up to the classroom. We'll take the steps to make sure we're eliminating the hostile environment. I always get to give an example here of the lawsuit for CU. CU had a lawsuit several years ago where a young lady reported to her professor that she had been sexually assaulted off campus at a frat party. They did the right reporting. They reported to the authorities. Authorities took the report, told them we're gonna investigate it, and we'll follow back up with you. So meanwhile, she's going back to classes and going back and forth because the investigations do take a little bit of time. And probably about 2 months down the road, she's walking across campus, and who she bumped into? The person who sexually assaulted her. CU did not take the steps to eliminate the hostile environment. She forced a lawsuit on them, and she won. So we're going to prevent that here at Ames, and we're going to make sure we take steps as soon as we know, as soon as we're aware of it. We're going to prevent it from reoccurring. This also has to deal with off-campus. As long as they are Ames students, we are responsible. It does not, just because it gets picked up by police or gets turned over to the cops, or if somebody says they've been raped but the cops know about it, does not exhaust Ames from all liability of investigating it or looking into it. As long as they're one of our students, regardless of where it happens, we are responsible for investigating and look into it to make sure we prevent that environment from coming back to our campus, and our campus is safe. A hostile environment can be created by anyone involved in a university program or activity, administrators, faculty members, students, or even our campus guests. The one thing I'll point out here about campus guests, because there have been cases before on other campuses, we're revamping our physical education department and our facilities over there. So we're going to have a lot of construction guys on campus doing that, remodeling like that. Now, if they're over there whistling at some of our students when they're walking by and everything like that, and if you happen to hear it or see it, or a student happens to report it, or a student reports that to you, that's possible Title IX, and it needs to be reported, because we won't tolerate that anywhere on this campus. They are contracted, they have their own sexual harassment policies. Yes, we know that, but as far as being our students, they fall under our liability, so we will deal with it. As far as some of our students in our specialty programs, like our fire sciences and nursing programs, when they go out there and they do their rides or they do their internships, they're still falling into that. If they're getting bullied out there, being told that, when after certain classes that they need to clean up all the supplies, or they need to clean up all the blood, and it's not being consistent and it's only being done on them because they're the rookie, that's a possible Title IX violations. A lot of times what we'll do is that will get kicked over to myself. I'll get a hold of the sexual harassment investigator over at whatever, I'll just say MC, if somebody's doing an internship over there, and we'll kind of work the case together and kind of see what's going on and make sure we prevent that environment from happening, and if we have to, move that student to another internship or another hospital. Conduct that occurs off campus can be a subject of complaint or report and will be evaluated to determine whether it violates Title IX policy. If off-campus harassment has continuing effects that create a hostile environment on campus, allegations of off-campus sexual misconduct are a particular concern and should be brought to the college's attention. I'd like to point this out is if you have a student come to your class, say you're midway through semester, they show up and maybe they have a bruise, they have a black eye, they have a bruise or something like that. Could be some domestic going on there. Maybe they're sexually assaulted. You don't know. I mean, and it's not your job to investigate it, but you could ask them, hey, is everything all right? Is everything going all right? And then you might want to shoot an email and say, hey, I don't know, just to give you FYI on this. So you need to pay attention to your students. Also, if we have students that are coming through, if you have students in your class, somebody that's dropping a lot of weight, that could be a sign of something that's going on, that they're going bullying, or just some bullying or hazing going on. Those are also fall under Title IX. Look into that. Go ahead and get that reported. So we're looking into that. We want to exhaust all the liability off the institution. If anything, the student might not even want to comply. Say, you know what, I don't have, everything's fine, nothing happened, whatever. Just leave me alone. Hey, if they want to say that, that's fine. But we're gonna cover our butt as an institution to make sure we're looking into it and give them the resources to give them the help that they need. How does it apply? These three policies right here are cover Ames, student, staff on student, and our sexual assault policy. The only thing to tell you about these three policies is they're kind of gray, and they're intentionally written that way because we have classes on campus such as your human sexuality or your nursing classes where you're going to walk in there and they might be talking about things like urethras and breast and stuff like that, which in this discussion of their syllabus. Is that going to be a Title IX violation? No, because that's in the context of their class. But if you walk into one of your math classes and they have, I don't know, a penis or something drawn on the board, do you think it's a Title IX violation? That might be a Title IX or something going on there that doesn't seem right? Yes, go ahead and report that, okay? Confidentiality, this is kind of what we tell students here. If a student comes to you and reports that they might have, something's going on, that there might be a violation or something they feel they've been assaulted or anything like that, is the response might be limited. There's still a due process, like I told you. So right away they might be requesting, I want this person off of campus. They might have been dating this person for a year and they broke up. Now they have a bad breakup and they want this person off campus and they're going to accuse them of something. We're going to look into that. Okay, we'll deal with that, but just tell them the response may be limited as an institution. Number two, you can't guarantee privacy. A lot of times they'll come and talk to you and be like, you know, I just want to talk, I feel confident talking to you, telling you about this, but I don't want it to be reported to anybody. I don't want it to go anywhere. Don't contact the local authorities or anything. I just want to talk to somebody about it, and I feel comfortable talking to you as my instructor. No, you cannot guarantee, you cannot do that. You let them know right away once they start telling you, I am obligated to report whatever you tell me because it could be a possible Title IX violation. So I'm going to let you know that. Let the students know that. Whether it's in a journal in one of your classes or something like that, they write something in a journal in one of your classes, you're obligated to report that. The thing we don't want to happen is that a case that happened on the East Coast at one of the bigger schools was a student did report to one of their faculty members about about being raped, and they kind of exposed it to them, was able to talk to the faculty they felt really good with. Faculty was talking to them, meet with it, never turned it over. It was in the student's journal. Student kind of got a comfortability level with that faculty. 2 or 3 weeks later, that student ended up hanging himself. The journal was subpoenaed. They looked into the journal. They found out that the student had been talking to the professor and telling the professor about that. The professor did nothing about that. The institution was sued, and they paid big. Okay, so that you don't want to run into that. So just because they're telling you they could be writing in their journal. Get it off your hands. Go ahead and report it. Better to report correctly than not. Go ahead and report something. If you have an idea or you think something, you're like, I'm not sure if this is Title IX or if this is a violation or something, just go ahead and report it. If it's not, we'll just kick it out. It's not a big deal, but it covers us. Just go ahead and report it. When an individual chooses to open up to you about assault, respect the trust that he or she has put into you, and go ahead and listen to them. Your job at that moment is to believe them and help them assess the appropriate resources. All those resources are on the campus website under, I think under safety and security. I think it says list of resources under there. There's a tab on there. You click on that. There's resources for everything. Homelessness, battered shelters for women. There's all kind of resources. There's a list of resources in there. Go ahead and refer them to that. Main thing to point out, it's not your job to try to get facts. So don't try to get facts from them. Let them tell you what they want to tell you, and then just go ahead and hand it over. You may call the SARC, which is the Sexual Assault Referral Crisis Line. Our local number right there is 472-4200. That is, I think it goes directly to North Range Behavior, but that is directly for their sexual assault line. And then advise the student that you'll be required to report to Title IX. Of course, if somebody's reporting that they've been raped, it's a state law in Colorado that if you're aware of a felony, you must report it. So go ahead and ask them the first thing. Go ahead, has this been reported to the cops? Has this been reported to law enforcement? We do have 2 law enforcement that work our campus. There's one here at all times up to 10 o'clock. Officer Dan back there, Officer Heinz is back there right now. Like I tell everybody, they are Greeley cops. They're not security guards that just patrol Ames campus. They are the regular cops that have any kind of authority as any cop in the city of Greeley. Okay, so you can report to them. We do have Securitas, which are our armed security guards that work our campus. They are not the cops. So go ahead and report it to the law enforcement if you need to report it to law enforcement and get a hold of them. That line, that number for that is all on the website as well. All this information I'm giving to you, any of this information about people to get a hold of, is all online if you need to. Reporting Title IX, who to tell? Myself. I'm the only one that investigates any kind of Title IXs on campus. I'm held to very strict confidentiality. The only person I report to on this campus is our chief of legal attorney, who is Sandra Owens. That's the only person I report to. It's the only person that has any supervision over me. Okay, I don't report to any deans. I don't report to any other staff or any faculty, and that's intentionally. So you don't have to worry about me compromising any of my investigations because somebody has a little power on this campus. The only person I report to is a campus attorney. That's who I work for strictly. I work all my cases by myself. I do all 4 campuses. nobody knows when I'm working campus. There's nobody I confide in. All I do is I talk to Sandra Owens. So that's what I'm here on campus to do. Okay? How to tell? You can call me. You can send me an email. A lot of times if you call me, I'm going to ask you probably to come in and set up an appointment if you don't want to meet on campus. Sandra has no problem with me meeting you somewhere and talking to you. I would do that as well. But I'm going to want to get a full report, and I don't like to do a lot of it over the phone. I like to know who I'm talking to and find out and break down the facts like that. So go ahead and tell it to me. When to tell? Tell right away. From the time that you're aware of something, or anybody's aware of something on this campus, there's a 60-day clock that goes, the OCR kind of puts us on as an institution to get an investigation done and find some facts and do something to make it in compliance. So if you hold on to it for 2 weeks and then kick it to me, it doesn't give me much time. It gives me about 40 days to get it done. Usually it ends up being about a 20 or 30-page report that I have to write and put on my boss's desk by the time I get done doing the investigation. So please go ahead and kick it over right away. You don't have to go to your dean. I have people ask me, can I go to my dean or head of my department and ask them and talk to them about it first? No. If you want to, you can. If you want to go ahead and discuss it and run it by them first, they know Title IX, all the deans. I'm very confident in their education on Title IX, so they're going to refer you back to me. But here's the thing. If it's been reported to you, we don't want to run into the Penn State thing where everybody's telling somebody and somebody thought they told this person and it never gets reported, because then the liability comes back to you. Okay? It's your job that you're messing with. Additional options, like I told you, there's always two law enforcement officers. There's always one on campus, and they're always around. What time do you guys start? 6 o'clock is the first shift?
7 a.m.
Oh, 7 to 10. 7 to 10. There's always a law enforcement here. Call that line. If the security guys answer the phone, just tell them that you need a law enforcement officer. And go ahead and call them over. A lot of times if you have a student over there and they're telling you something and you need a law enforcement officer, just go ahead and call Dan or Les, who's the other officer, will be over right away. Go ahead and take the report. The thing is, just because it gets reported to any of our law enforcement officers, or if the student tells you that it's been reported to Greeley PD or Fort Collins PD or wherever it happened at, does not exhaust us like I told you. A lot of times what we'll do is I'll work a case with the law enforcement. We're working together. Only thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to come up with a conclusion on whether they're guilty or not guilty. That would go through the legal process. My job is to make sure, as far as the campus, that we're taking the steps that we need to help that student or to assist that student or to eliminate the hostile environment. My whole investigation is impartial. I'm trying to gather facts. I'm not trying to gather whether somebody's guilty or not guilty. Our student counseling services, those are over in the Student Center. Chris Carl is our resource here on campus. You can go ahead and refer to him. That's all online as well. Our victim service advocates, Chris Carl as well. He's over in the Student Center as well, if you need to get a hold of him. Once again, here's my contact information. I do have cards. If not, any of your department chairs or the deans definitely know how to get a hold of me if they have to, or you can. Like I said, I'm in the second floor at Westview. If you have any student conduct problems, please reach out to me as well. I think Dean Rand's going to come in and talk to you guys more about the student conduct process, but she will tell you about me as well. But there's my contact information if you need to, my email as well. So other than that, does anybody have any questions? Cool, that's it. Thanks for my time and welcome to Ames. I've been here since July myself, so I'm kind of new too, so don't ask me too many questions or I might not know them. But it's been a good experience so far. Prior to this, I was working 16 years at the jail, so it's much better on the college campus than inside the jail. So.